What's the pettiest thing you've ever done? Did you block your ex on Instagram? Did you eat your coworker's labeled yogurt out of the fridge just to watch the light leave their eyes? That's cute. That's adorable. You are toddlers playing in the sandbox of spite. Because today, we are talking about a man whose hatred was so astronomically, biblically unhinged that he literally looked at his dead rival and said, "Nah, dying isn't enough. Get up, bro. We're going to court." Welcome to the year 897 AD. Welcome to the Cadaver Synod, the day the Catholic Church decided that a severe lack of a pulse was no excuse to miss a subpoena. Let me set the scene. Late 9th century Rome wasn't a holy sanctuary of peace and prayer. It was a Grand Theft Auto lobby with more lead poisoning and worse haircuts. Popes were getting assassinated, poisoned, and swapped out faster than fast fashion trends. Enter Pope Stephen. Stephen is in power, but he has beef. Massive, cosmic-level beef with the previous guy, Pope Formosus. There's just one tiny, minuscule, microscopic problem with Stephen's plan to ruin Formosus's life. Formosus is dead. Like dead. He's been in the ground for 7 months. Now, a normal person, a person with a functioning frontal lobe, would say, "Well, my enemy is dead. I win. Time to go eat some grapes." Not Stephen. Stephen is an innovator. Stephen says, "Bring me a shovel. I need you to mentally grasp the logistical nightmare of what happens next." They dig up a 7-month-old corpse. Do you know what a human body looks like after 7 months in the dirt? It's not sleeping peacefully. It is soup. It is a biological weapon. Stephen's goons drag this marinating, festering pile of holy jerky out of the tomb. And they don't just throw him in a bag. No. They dress this decomposing nightmare in full, heavy, glittering papal vestments. They put a crown on his skull. They slap a ring on his bony, rotting finger. And then they prop him up on a throne in the Basilica of St. John Lateran. Look at this painting by Jean-Paul Laurens. Look at it. Look at the absolute masterpiece of mental illness on display here. The corpse is just slouched there like a teenager at a family dinner, probably smelling like the absolute wrath of God. Now the trial begins. Pope Stephen, dressed in his Sunday best, starts screaming, literally screaming, at a skeleton. He's pacing back and forth, shouting legal questions at a guy whose vocal cords dissolved half a year ago. "Why did you usurp the papacy? Answer me, Formosus, answer me." But wait. It gets better. Because medieval church law stated that the accused had the right to a defense. So, Stephen appoints a teenage deacon to be Formosus's lawyer. Imagine being an 18-year-old intern at the Vatican. You think you're going to be organizing scrolls or pouring wine. Instead, your boss tells you to hide behind a throne and do a puppet voice for a rotting corpse. What was that kid even supposed to say? "Objection, Your Holiness, my client is literally leaking onto the floor. I invoke the fifth, mostly because my client lacks a lower jaw." The smell in that room must have been apocalyptic. There are bishops sitting in the front row, holding incense to their noses, pretending this is a completely normal Tuesday. Shockingly, the guy who had been dead for 7 months lost the debate. He offered a terrible defense, mostly silence and flies. Formosus is found guilty of. Honestly, who cares? He was found guilty. So what's the punishment? You can't execute a corpse. Or can you? Stephen orders his guards to chop off the 3 fingers on Formosus's right hand. The fingers he used to give blessings. Because apparently, Stephen wanted to make sure Formosus couldn't bless anybody in the afterlife. Petty level, infinity. Then, they rip the fancy clothes off him, redress him in rags, drag his battered skeleton through the streets of Rome behind a horse, and yeet him straight into the Tiber River. Trash. Taken. Out. Now, if you're wondering if Stephen got away with this, Absolutely not. Turns out, throwing a beloved former pope's corpse into a river pisses people off. An earthquake actually shook the basilica during the trial, which people took as a sign from God saying, "Bro, what the fuck are you doing?" A few months later, a mob threw Stephen into prison and literally strangled him to death. Karma didn't just knock, she kicked the door off the hinges. Formosus's body was eventually fished out of the river by a monk, and a later pope was like, "Yeah, our bad. Let's bury him properly, and maybe never speak of this again." So, the next time you feel like you're overreacting to a text message, or you want to hold a grudge against your annoying neighbor, just take a deep breath, count to 10, and remember, at least you didn't dig up their rotting corpse, put it in a Gucci robe, and yell at it in front of the entire government.